what it's about is connection. Back to that word, connecting to your own joy, realizing that joy is your actual essence, is your birthright, and is your nature. And how can I elevate my vibration? Truly, we are all electromagnetic frequencies, and
Mhm.
joy is a high electromagnetic frequency. So if you think about like a radio, right? How can we tune to the FM station of joy? So I think like Joy FM. Okay, what do I need to do, Kilkenny, to elevate my vibration to start to feel Joy FM? So for
Welcome, Kilkenny. I am so honored to have you on the podcast today, and thank you so much for being here.
it is my pleasure. I can't wait to have this conversation.
Yeah, I feel like there's gonna be so much that comes out that's really gonna give so much value to everyone who's listening. But before we dive into everything, do you mind just sharing some of your backstory? One thing that really drew me to you is that you call yourself a mystic, and it's a term I've heard, but I'm not familiar with. Do you mind just sharing what that term means, and then how did you come about to embodying that?
Great question. So, mystic really speaks to, etymologically speaking, mistos, and there's a long line of history, but it really speaks to the liminal space, the space where the seen meets the unseen, where the modern living meets the ancient art of living. And that's really what I'm passionate about helping people find and discover, because that's what makes life more magical, more meaningful, and you can bring more presence and mindfulness, which is the way to really carpe diem your life. So, yeah, so mystical to me was the term because I think so often we think like, how do we find magical moments? How do we find moments of grace and moments of inspiration and those moments of aha as much as possible? And to me, that's how we bring the mysticism into the modernism and find that intersectionality where they converge, which really makes life meaningful.
I love that. And I think it's something we're all seeking is to feel that we have a deeper purpose and meaning. So I absolutely love that. I can't wait to dive more into that.
Well, I have a podcast called Modern Mystic Podcast, and the first episode one, it literally the title is "What Does It Mean to Be a Modern Mystic?" So for those listeners curious, it's about 30 minutes, so it's pretty quick. All about more etymology about that and truly what it really means in more depth too.
Love that. Yeah, I'll definitely put everything in show notes too to so for anyone listening who wants to check that out. I love that. And then can you tell me about your backstory? Was this something that always just came naturally, or is this something that evolved as you went through your journey in life?
It's something that really I was born into almost. Like when I was 5, my mother took me to meditate to a meditation weekly group.
Mhm.
And there was some yoga, asana, physical practice, but the primary practice was meditation. I was the only kid. And I just really resonated with it and really felt the peace and the power from a really young age. And it was that moment where like the light switch went on, and I was like, there's something greater than I'm seeing. There's something I can sense and feel that is adding more joy into my life. I remember feeling really content after meditating. And, when you're a kid, you're so open and also less complex. So it was like, oh, you do this. Oh, and I feel better. So there was a instant recognition of that practice. And then when I was 10, I started visiting every summer upstate New York. I live in Pennsylvania. And I would go there to the Catskill Mountains every summer, and it's an incredible area. It's called the Bajan Belt, which is an Indian term for devotion. And there's all sorts of mystics there. There's tantric philosophers and monks and that whole lineage, which is my lineage and my main squeeze lineage. And there's Jewish mystics and there's Tibetan Buddhist temples. And so I really had this informal boot camp, if you will, my whole life growing up. And back then it was like I could be 12 and 13 and not even be with my parents. I had a guardian, but I just went up for months and months because I loved it so much. There were astrologers, there were real excellent Sanskrit scholars that I learned all about the ancient esoteric tantric text from. And so I really had an immersion during my youth of various traditions. And then I also come from a Celtic background. And so when I turned 20, I got very interested in that exploration of learning and uncovering those practices. And I'm a Celtic priestess as well. So that is my background, really offering a real myriad and mixture of different ancient tools and technologies that can be really applied into modern day life.
What an amazing gift too, especially as a child being exposed to that because like I have young kids and I see just the magic in their eyes and you want to like just keep that in them because so many of us become adults and we lose that essence of ourselves. And I think just that the fact that you had that ability to connect with yourself at such an early age is such an incredible gift before we get shrouded in all the things that life kind of puts on us. So I think that's absolutely amazing. And with that, how did that form your view of the world as you had an upbringing that's very different from many people from the exposure that we have like modern society? Can you talk about how that shaped and formed your view of the world as a contrast of what many of us experience?
It's a great question. I feel like it gifted me the things you said, the real understanding of what's important with a capital I in life,
Mhm.
and the tools to really discover my soul and really hear my inner GPS, my intuition, which is so much about my work and what I teach, and
Mhm.
helping others to do the same. For me, it's been a process of learning to become more human, I think, like in a sense. Like for me, it's almost been like the reverse process where like for a long time, I owned a yoga and very popular mindfulness studio, and I've taught practices all over the country and different festivals and things like that. And I've been witness to and help be a catalyst for so many people's spiritual awakening. And that's amazing and such a gift. So I've witnessed and supported many people waking up, so to speak, and having that spiritual aha moment. And then that really electric kind of experience of, oh my goodness, there's so much more. And this is so exciting. So, excuse me. So, this is amazing. For me, having had that gift so young, I have had to learn, oh, what it is to be like quote unquote human. Like, oh, like what is suffering? What is compassion? What is the value of more mundane seemingly things and then blending them both together. So that's really been a practice for me and something that I feel like has been a gift too. But I've had to learn it, and almost like my spirituality was reverse compared to the majority of people's experiences on the spiritual path.
Yeah, so interesting. I love how you share that too, because it's so, for many of us, it's just like the human experience is all we know, and it can feel just like so constricting. So to see your perspective where you're learning that, it's like I'm sure you gain so much from your clients and being able to understand their reality and then what you're bringing to it as well. I absolutely,
Completely,
yeah.
completely, and exploring things like because I was trained with all
Mhm.
these monks, like, I was literally a child, and I would be up very late doing, like, very intense practices and things like that. So, coming into my adulthood and realizing, "Okay, where's the weaving in of sexuality into all this, and how can that be sacred? Where is the weaving in of being a householder, and how can that be sacred?" And of course, this is what tantra is. Tantra literally means to loom, to weave, and it is about day-to-day life and moments and mundane tasks, how to make each thing sacred. So like when I'm serving my kids a sandwich, I can just throw them a sandwich, or I can like have it be filled with intention and love and infuse it with, positive energy, etc. And so when I do that, it makes the sandwich and their experience different, and it also makes my experience different. And
Yeah.
so that place where the mundane meets the mystical is really what I'm so interested in, and is really, I feel like, what I am here to do, to learn and to explore and to offer people.
Yeah, I love that, and it very much resonates with me, and I know with people listening because it's like you think when you think of all these practices you have to integrate, you're like, okay, how am I going to find all the time to do this and that and all these expectations? But when you talk about weaving and that it's your daily life and just how do we make that more meaningful? I love that because it feels like something you can integrate versus something you have to add on all the time to it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's so profound what you just said, and it really is the answer to the secret of life, I feel like.
Mhm.
Truly, that
Yeah.
everything in your life can be a practice, everything in your life can be an offering, and when we do those things, we elevate our own vibration, we elevate our own experience of our own life, and we elevate the experience of the world.
Mhm.
So, really starting with our own state and the actions that we do that seem mundane, not waiting for the dramatic, spiritual, sexy moments, but actually realizing, no, every little pocket, every little moment, I can orient myself, align myself with the fact that it is a portal, an opportunity
Mhm.
into more mindfulness, into more magic, into my spirituality. And then that's when those moments open up. And then all of life just becomes so much more meaningful and
Yeah.
magical.
Amazing. I love how inviting it sounds too. And I'm thinking of for someone who's listening that says, "Oh, I want that. That sounds amazing." But maybe they feel so disconnected from themselves and they've been on autopilot for years and they're like, "How do I move towards that where it feels like I'm more connected, feels like I'm more mindful of my experience?" What would you say to that person to just get started towards integrating that?
Such a profound question. And I'm a psychic medium and I offer readings. And when I offer my readings, I work with my clients about this exact thing. Because so many people, I'd say the majority of people who come to me for readings are secretly, quote unquote, stressed out, are secretly burnt out, and are really running the rat race, or they feel a lot of anxiety or depression. And so, one of the things that I help people do through the different downloads I get for people is discover what's their unique RX towards coming back to doing these types of things. And everyone, it is a unique RX. It is different. And your team and your guides have specific messages for you and are available to you. There's a whole resource of team spirit that's just cheering you on that has messages for you to uncover if you can't figure them out yourself. And often, including myself, you get to moments where you're just up against a brick wall. And that's why, readings are so profound and getting mentors and things like that. But one of the things that I can say is because this team, and you can think of it as a spirit team, you can think of it as the universe, quote unquote, because it's a conglomeration of energy, so you can diversify and think of, individuals or just one energy because it really is all the same in my experience when I do readings. It just depends what works for your brain because our brains are all different and what makes sense to us is all different. And so how we narrate how things are logistically set up is going to be different and work for one person, something that doesn't work for another. The key, however, is that there is an energy, there is a team, there is access to an unlimited source of wisdom that lives outside of you and also hides itself within you. So,
Mhm.
two ways if you want to do the from inside out job, meditate. Completely meditate, practice meditation. And, I've been teaching meditation for over 20 years. And being a tantric yogi, there's not one style of meditation that fits everyone. So, when I owned my yoga and mindfulness studio, I had a full class schedule of meditation every day and saw daily how one meditation worked for someone and then that type didn't work for someone else. So a lot of people get discouraged with meditation and think, oh, I meditated once or twice or three times and I hated it or my mind was just chattering or etc. But finding it's like a dating
Mhm.
situation. Like you want to find the right meditation for you that makes you feel good. So it is like a Tinder situation. So I encourage people to really explore different types of meditation. When I was a kid and a young person in my 20s, there wasn't the internet. There wasn't things like Insight Timer, which is free, or whichever app. I'm not affiliated with any of them. You can find with free meditations. So you can play. There's such access with YouTube to all sorts of different meditations and see what takes you there. What
Yeah.
takes you to the most peaceful, inspired, authentic aspect of yourself? What takes you to the ground of your being? What allows you to feel connected? Because connection is the word. When I do
Yeah.
psychic medium readings, I'm connecting. When people feel joyful, when people feel inspired, they're connecting. So that is really the key word. And so
Yeah.
meditation to me is the path because in the moment where you create space and time to be with yourself, capital S, your soul, and only yourself, even when the mind chatters, even when, the thoughts come, still, you are pulling your energy back to yourself. You are coalescing your power. You're aligning with the most authentic, powerful part of self. And when you leave, you'll feel better. It's like taking a shower. Other people may not know. The meditation may not have felt blissful. It might. It might have felt amazing. You might have felt like totally elixir. Or some people, it can feel like, oh, I took out the trash. It was stressful, but you took out it'll incinerate a lot
Mhm.
of the anxiety, the depression, so that when you leave, you can sense, like, when you've taken a shower or not. You can sense, "Oh, I feel shifted after the meditation." No one has meditated to me, and I've taught literally thousands of people to meditate and said, "God, I wish I didn't have done that. Oh, I wish I hadn't meditated." So that's one way. The second way is asking your spirit team or the universe or whichever word you wanna call it, for signs and symbols, for support. So literally making the clear, hard ask, because
Mhm.
so many people want support, but don't remember, like, oh, they have their favorite aunt who passed, who actually is hanging out and would be available to give them a sign any point in time.
Mhm.
Or, oh, I have a spirit guide that's a deer. I did a reading the other day and that came up and I said deer and she said, "Oh my God, like that's crazy. I've been seeing deer since I was young." And I said, "Yeah, because that's one of your main spirit guides." And so ask that spirit for a sign. And then later she emailed me and she saw a deer that night and she knew what she needed to do. Right. So you don't have to figure out the ways that the universe needs to come to you. All you have to do is literally make the clear ask. Hey, universe, I really need help. Please. And often you can give it a finite stopping point. So say like a hard stop. I really please within the next 48 hours give me a sign about X or show me a symbol about Y. And you just open up. And so that's how to do it. And then the key point about that, if you're working from the outside in, is to then pay attention because a lot of people come to me and they're very quote unquote spiritual or they believe in, and know with all their being that all I'm speaking to is true because it is and they've experienced it. But as a human, we forget. And that's part of why it's so helpful to get support, to get mentors, to have conversations with colleagues like you and I, right? Because we help each other remember. In yoga, it's
Yeah.
called satsang. In Buddhism, it's called sangam. It's coming together to talk about these things because then it helps us remember and get jazzed up about them again. And so it's really key. Once you ask and remember to ask, you also have to remember to pay attention, to
Mhm.
look for signs. I had another client who had asked, and then she was like, nothing came. So then when I saw her again, I said, well, what did you do that weekend? And she said, oh, well, I went on a, retreat up in I forget where it was. It was somewhere
Mhm.
upstate in, I think, Vermont. And she said, I said, oh, well, where did you stay? And she said, oh, it was like Turkey Island. And what did you do? And oh, we saw some turkeys. So I was like, okay, what was happening around Turkey Island? And I said, does Turkey mean anything to you? And she's like, well, I'm a doctor and they're really smart. And there was a whole connection. And it's like, oh, okay. You have to sometimes Hansel and Gretel it and put the pieces together. But don't just ask. You also have to like open up to what then you receive, what stands out, and pay attention for the answers to.
I love that. There's so many like points that you brought up, and it's just I so appreciate those messages because the one thing in the meditation, like I want to like when I first started my journey, I was like, oh my gosh, I like struggle to meditate. But then when you talk about it's not one size fits all, I mean, it makes so much sense, but sometimes it becomes so blanketed, like this is just meditation, and it's like an exercise program. You don't have one exercise program for every person. Of course, it makes so much more sense. So I really appreciate you sharing that and like how we can experiment with different ones and see what resonates with us. So I really appreciate that. And then just talking about the guidance, I mean, so many of us can feel very alone in this journey, even though we may be surrounded by family and friends, like only we know our experience. So I really appreciate you sharing how we have this guidance and then it's always there for us and it is literally helping us through life. And I want to go off of that because that's something like I'm very receptive to, and I haven't always been, but I have opened myself up and I've seen it in my life once I did open up and become more aware of it. But how can we differentiate between what's true guidance and maybe what we're like just trying to create as guidance? Like if we're, you know, looking for maybe a playing card and we're like, okay, I'm going to find that playing card versus like it came to me. It was true guidance. How can we differentiate what we're creating in our mind versus like what we are allowing as far as that guidance?
Such a key point.
Mhm.
How does your body feel?
Mm,
There's that great book, listeners, if you haven't read it, it's called Your Body Keeps Score. But your body is truly the component, along with your mind, along with your nervous system. Those three things make up what I like to refer to as your inner GPS,
mhm,
your intuition. So those three things put together are when like you said, true information from information that you're maybe forcing or hoping or, etc. So first check into your body, because your body and your nervous system are so key. And I feel like a lot of the manifestation world, and I'm a huge fan of mindset, and I teach a lot about mindset for sure and help people with mindset, but it's only one component. I mentioned that there's the mindset, there's the mind,
mhm,
part one, two, body, three, nervous system. So if you've got the mindset down, and you've asked, right? And you've intellectually put it out there, then it's okay. How does my body feel when I receive that information? And you
mhm,
feel into your body. Do you feel hard, contracted, pulled in,
mhm,
tight, tense? People come to me in readings and sometimes they feel a little scared. And what they're scared of are intrusive thoughts. And they're
mhm,
scared of, and you have to be really important when you go to a psychic medium, that they're really well trained, that they're highly psychologically oriented, that they're safe. It's like going to a doctor or going to a car mechanic. There's all sorts of um, people and level of skill. And it's your psyche and your soul. So you really want to be very mindful of who you open yourself up to in this way. And so I've had people come to me and they've had bad, quote unquote, bad or traumatic readings because they didn't have someone as skilled in understanding the importance of protecting someone's nervous system, supporting them in a way that does not invite intrusive thoughts in, etc. And so when we ask things, if we start to feel any kind of constriction in our body, tightness in the throat, heart beating start to, palpate, etc., then we know, that's just like what I call the ego taking over. So it's the part of the mind. There's three aspects of the mind in the yoga tradition architecture that I think are really helpful. And the main part that we're familiar with is the ego. And the
mhm,
ego wants to keep us safe. So the
mhm,
ego comes in and wants to take control of everything. So it literally its function, and it's great. It's helps keep us safe, the ego. It wants to keep us safe. So if we decide to go into a dark neighborhood and in the middle of the night, and we're, not thinking about, are the doors locked, or am I in a neighborhood where I need to be supporting myself more, things like that, right? We need to keep ourselves safe. Well, the ego rushes into every situation and tries to take control to keep us safe. And those thoughts that we can have that are intrusive are the ego actually trying to protect you, actually trying to keep you safe. And part of its job is to try to keep us safe so we don't expand, because
mhm,
expansion feels dangerous to us.
mhm,
Of course, expansion in ways that aren't in alignment are dangerous to us. So good for the ego. So that's when we have to start to think about, okay, what does my body tell me? Is this my ego? Let me know that the ego tries to keep me safe and it does a great job. And sometimes I listen to the ego. And then sometimes I have to say, okay, ego, thank you for sharing. And I'm going to take your advice, put it aside, keep it in mind, but I'm going to go another way. So
yeah,
you think of yourself like the leader of a boardroom, and there are different parts of you. And that's very much what's called parts work, where there's a part of you that, has fear, and a part of you that has anger, and a part of you that's 3 years old still, and a part of you that's 10 years old, right? The different ages that you've ever had, the different feelings you've ever had, the different parts of the mind. And so the body will contract, feel constricted, and there'll be a sense of non expansion and not
mhm,
comfortability. Well, and then right away if your body tells you that. If your
mhm,
nervous system, which is the third aspect of the intuition, starts to feel tense and freak out, yeah, that is another thing that can bring a question mark, because the nervous system can give us information and tell us, okay, again, it has to do with safety. It's the root chakra, the first energy center of our body that holds the nervous system aspect of feeling safe, survival. And we can see, okay, how is my nervous system feeling? If your nervous system feels off, it could be because it's information that isn't quote unquote authentic and true, or
Mhm.
it could be that it's jacked by your ego that's trying to protect you and you're in fight or flight. So
Yeah.
then what you can do is say, okay, I'm feeling really anxious. I feel strange or, ramped up. Let me do something to calm my nervous system, to soothe my nervous system. And so you can do like a few stretches, adding your body. Maybe it's some even breath work if breath is the way for you. Maybe it's literally having a soothing cup of tea. Do something that takes your mind off the thing you're questioning, if it's
Mhm.
intuition or not, the answer that you've gotten that you're not sure is correct, quote unquote, or right for you. Take it off and then feel yourself soothe, calm down, and then go back and ask the question again
Mhm.
and then see. And then you might get still contraction in your body. Okay, it's a no. Or you might be like, okay, expansion in my body. My nervous system too has to titrate in how much I expand at the rapidity that I expand, right? Because
Mhm.
the ego wants us safe. That's why, like, a lot of us suffer with the same dating the same person, having the same abundance stories, all these things, because we actually are addicted to those feelings. We don't think we are, but we actually are addicted to those patterns and we don't know how to break free because staying small and staying contracted feels safer unconsciously than expansion. Expansion, anything different than we know, very biologically, we're wired that way to fear. So, long answer, but complicated, seemingly, but really can be very simple. Check in with your body. The body feels off. Check in with your nervous system. Is it nervous system related? Do something soothing, calming. Go back, see how the body feels. If it's a contraction, tightness,
Mhm.
weirdness in the belly, any sensation that doesn't feel quote unquote pleasant,
Mhm.
nope. If it's expansion, if it's a little excitement, if it's butterflies in the stomach, yeah,
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, I love that. I really appreciate your explanation. I want to just go off of that a little bit more. Just kind of give an example. Like, so say you like want to write a book and you're super nervous. You don't know, you've never written a book before and it feels so unfamiliar. It's scary because you're like, people are going to read this. How do you differentiate like that's in alignment with my like where I'm supposed to go in my soul and or versus like that's just I'm nervous about that because I haven't been there, but it still could be right. How do you differentiate that nervousness of like, I don't know, this is all unknown versus like, this is still in alignment, but it's just something that I haven't done before?
totally. Well, back to the answers that I gave, and it's
Mhm.
great to give a concrete example. One, you could ask the universe for signs and symbols. Say,
Mhm.
hey, should I write this?
Yeah.
I really feel like I want to write this, but be as specific as possible. So it's
Mhm.
like not just like, you could ask for sure, should I write this book? And
Mhm.
I actually did this like a while ago because I have a book in my mind at some point that I feel like I should write.
Yeah.
And I got a sign on a license plate that was the title of the book. Like it literally like had to do
Oh
with
my
your third
gosh.
eye and it
Yeah.
said third eye, like someone's
Oh,
license plate. And it was just like, oh my God, right?
yeah.
So, but then I was like, but at the moment in my life, I had this going on, I had that going on, I had things with my kids I needed to tend to. So I was like, really? Like it felt really confusing.
Yeah.
And my body was so, wired about it. And I mean, I'm an astrologer too, and I'm a Libra. I have like 5 things in Libra. So like
Yeah.
I'm very clear until I'm not, and then I can be like very unclear. And that's
Mhm.
part of what the gift of that has really helped me devise tools to become
Mhm.
crystal clear because I have so much Libra energy and I'm also Pisces energy. So I'm floating and flowing all the time. And through feeling the contraction of being confused of substantive a part of my life, I've learned how to actually get really laser clear all the time because of that challenge. Like any challenge, can become an asset if we work on it. Okay.
Yeah.
So at this moment, the story, I like my tools and my body, everything, it wasn't working just with myself. So that's when I knew to ask. So then once I got the yes and still felt like contraction, but I got the sign from the universe.
Mhm.
So it was a little more complex. Then I went, oh, am I supposed to do this now?
Mm.
And then I got a sign, show me a sign where it was a whole story, but like a publisher from a guest who was on my podcast
Mhm.
said to me, oh, write me in a year and then we should talk. And it was like, oh my God, like that couldn't be more clear. So again, it's the asking and
Mhm.
then it's the specificity. So same thing with like tarot readings, right? And tarot cards. If you use divination tools, which are another way to speak to your question, you can get information if you just feel like you're too blocked,
Mhm.
too, yeah, completely like jarred up and jacked up to get information, you can use divination tools. So you can use tarot cards. And in my readings, like I have tarot cards and people will ask me for a reading as part of that. And sometimes it just comes up to do that work
Mhm.
or get a reading from a psychic medium who's fabulous and supportive and will keep you safe and who's very dialed in. So of course, getting a reading, doing there's the prism you can do or the pendulum tool. So you can look up divination tools. There's so many tools. The runes I have from Celtic Ireland. So you can use different tools, and those tools, right, are non-biased, so they can give you information. But you always want to be as specific as you can with those questions. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
So you never want to just say like kind of open-ended questions. I
Mhm.
mean, you can, but you won't get much clearer
Yeah. Yeah.
evidence and advice. You want to be like, should I do this in this time frame? Tell me yes, tell me no. So you
Mhm.
can, be very specific with your questions, and that will help you get more dialed in information. Even if you go
Mhm.
to psychic medium, if you have questions, prepare them ahead of time and get very specific. And then it'll help the medium just get complete clarity on the
Yeah.
answers from your guides.
That's so beneficial and so helpful because it can be like a lot of times too, it's like that self-doubt creeps in, like, and then your mind kind of takes over, and then it can really be paralyzing when you're trying to make some of these decisions. You want to grow, but then you pull yourself back. So it's really helpful to see how we can move through that and really accept that guidance in the process. I want to transition over to like for someone who's experienced maybe some real hardship in their life, has had really some major challenges, how can we start to change our perspective? Because if we look at just the human aspect of that, it can be like, why is this happening to me? Why is everything like coming down on me? Why is life so hard? Can you talk about how we can shift to like the soul perspective to understand why some of these challenges are in our life?
Absolutely. And it's such a poignant question. And truly, when I spoke at the beginning of my own journey, I do really feel like that has been such a lesson for me, having come into spirituality so young.
Mhm.
And when I said like learning to become more and more human for me completely. And the answer to that in my mind is compassion.
Mhm.
You'll hear lots of different answers in the spiritual world, and I can give you 50,000 prescriptive practices and things to do. However, in my life lived experience, and I've lived through a lot of trauma, a lot of near death trauma and trauma, like so many people. And the key really is it's called karuna in the Buddhist tradition, karuna, and it stems through the yoga traditions as well, and it speaks to compassion. So literally, I love that word because compassion means with passion. So
Mhm.
it's not like a passive thing. You
Yeah.
can think compassion, it's like, oh, like watery, wishy-washy. When I thought of that one time when I was practicing and going deep dive in my own spiritual practices and going through quite a traumatic, post-traumatic kind of situation,
Mhm.
that circumstance really taught me, oh, it's like very active compassion. I have to be very active in this practice. With passion, I have to practice compassion. And
Mhm.
that is the foundation of it. I think after that, you can add that level of, okay, there's two perspectives here.
Mhm.
There's one perspective, which is more the limited perspective, which is I'm suffering. This sucks. This is hard. Fill in the blank. And if we just bypass that, if we just go all spiritual, oh, it's all good and this is perfect, and that doesn't work. So, in my humble opinion, it's oh my God, this is a really painful situation or thing, big challenge. You can phrase it, of course, if you're still like pitching it to yourself. It's a challenge, right? It sucks and it's a challenge. You can have
Mhm.
challenges that are great, but we're not, you get the languaging. There's still
Yeah.
something that's like, okay, there's an invitation to rise up to meet the challenge with compassion, with passion. I'm going to be soft, gentle, and really honor that this is a hard karma. This is a hard freaking thing to deal with. This is big. And I will forever be changed or
Mhm.
whoever, if it's someone else you're working with or interacting with or your loved one, this moment is one of those lines in the sand moment where they will forever be changed. And
Mhm.
so articulating that, honoring that with passion, doing compassionate practices. There are many compassionate meditations, studying this notion of karuna, honoring what it is, that perspective. And then slowly adding the third layer, which is pulling out. And that's called upeksha. And upeksha is a Sanskrit word for eagle vision. So you have compassion, and then you honor it and articulate the challenges. And then you pull out and you start to, like an eagle who has vision on that wider perspective, I like to say, which is okay, yet all those things are true. It's not but, it's
Mhm.
and everything is working out for me. My soul signed up to do this. I actually agreed with this person who is breaking my heart before I came into this life that they would teach me this lesson. And I can't thank them yet because I'm so pissed off. But
Mhm.
this is actually the wider perspective. And this is true. And I see this all the time on my readings where
Mhm.
I'm told by people's loved ones who have passed on, family members, all sorts of messages come through.
Mhm.
And again and again, what I'm shown is that literally all of us have signed up for these roles ahead of time. And each one of us has a certain handful of lessons, it seems to me, for sure, that come up. So it's like me as Kilkenny, like I've had many things happen to me, like you and everyone, right? And there's the gamut of challenging to blissful, right? And we have all these things. However, there's a couple common denominational themes that,
Mhm.
if you really look at everything that's happened to me, both challenging and easeful, that can be articulated in like 2 or 3 words.
Mhm.
Same thing probably for you. And so some people I find it's like one, like I had a client the other day, and right away in the reading, she started sharing a little bit about what was happening for her. And I said, before you go on, let me just like dial in. And right away, I saw some different images, and they were all very different, but the feeling I had was trust. And I was like, you know,
Mhm.
there's lots of stories, but what I'm feeling like is the main kind of karmic life lesson for you is trust. Does that land? And she was like, oh my God, like it was such a relief, right? Like she hadn't put that together, right?
Yeah.
So each of us has a certain curriculum, if you will, of lessons. And so that's the wider perspective. And we'll have to fluctuate back and forth because healing's not linear. So if we
Mhm.
have a trauma or someone hurts us or fill in the blank, it's not like I feel like, people want, as it's very human to expect, like, okay, I'm going to go on this rung of the ladder. Okay, compassion. Okay, check, done. Now I'll go to, okay, it's challenging. Okay, check, done. Now I'm going to live in the wider high perspective. And that's it. No, we have to go back and forth on the wrongs. Oh, today I'm feeling like this person betrayed me. Screw them.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, that's contracting my energy. How can I bring compassion to myself? Let me do this small meditation of compassion. Okay, I do that meditation of compassion. My nervous system feels a little more calm. Now I'm more open to remembering that person. I'm not going to forgive them today, but I'm
Mhm.
going to remember, yeah, they are teaching me this very challenging thing to me of trust. They are teaching me this very challenging lesson of recognizing my own self worth and putting up that boundary because I'm not going to stand for it. And
Mhm.
so we go back and forth until eventually one day it's like, I'm not forgetting this happened. It's a part of my story, but
Mhm.
I'm pretty healed. I'm pretty integrated. It
Yeah.
could take a day, it could take the year, it could take 20 years, but this is the
Mhm.
way, I think.
Yeah, so resonates with me. I mean, I can definitely see themes in my life where it's like this one theme, but it's showed up in a lot of different ways. And I think I don't know if I fully learned my lesson. I definitely didn't throughout the years, but then something big just happened, recently, and I was like, okay, I'm learning it. Like it just taught me, but it's been something I think that has been coming through in so many ways in my life, and I've like seen it very clearly. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna learn this as much as I can now, so I don't have to keep on going through things to learn it.
Yes, yes, Kelly.
Yeah.
That's brilliant because that's the goal. And like when I offer my readings, I try to armor people. This
Mhm.
is a big lesson. Okay, let's download. What are the things that you can do to put you on the fast track to
Yeah.
learning it so that you can then, because once we learn them, It's not that they never come up again. Often the universe will test us a little bit and like wink and say, "Oh, did you really learn that?" And then but you have. If you
Yeah.
really fast track it and accelerate it, then
Mhm.
that's when we get into the space of ease, joy, and flow. That's when we
Mm,
get into the space truly of healing, and
mhm.
life goes so much more swimmingly
Yeah.
when we identify our core lessons and then really learn how to accelerate and do the practices, do day to day concrete things every day
Mhm.
that support the accomplishment of learning that lesson.
Mhm. Absolutely, 100%, and, like, spot on because it is just that constant, like you said, practice of reminding yourself of, like, this is what I've learned, and I'm gonna embody it every single day and show myself that I'm here for myself, so
Yes.
100%. I absolutely love that, and I wanna you talked about joy and that openness. I would love to go into joy because I think joy is one of those things that we hold ourselves back from, like, we almost feel like we have to earn it, or we feel like I have to be so hard on myself, especially for a lot of the high achievers that listen to this. Like they just grind on themselves, self criticism. Like there's not much room for joy. And maybe they haven't experienced joy in so long that they're like, what is joy? What does it actually feel like? Can you talk about joy and how do we start to invite that into our life again and really just open ourselves up to experiencing it?
Yes, I have so many people come to me with that malaise. And I think that's just completely the illness, so to speak, of our modern day fast paced, go, rat race society and with technology and everything, which I'm a fan of.
Mhm.
However, there's an asset and peril to everything. And I think that you're right. I think joy has been sacrificed. And I call it vitamin J, vitamin joy. Like I'll be like, okay,
Love
what,
that.
what have I done to get my
Yeah.
vitamin J today? I
Yeah.
think you make it a practice. You
Mhm.
literally commit to it. You put a reminder in your phone.
Yeah.
You start with it in the morning. The morning time is the time spiritually, psychically, energetically, psychologically, when your energy is in the most elevated state,
Yeah.
when your psychology is in the most elevated state. Even if you feel shit like shit, even if you're depressed, you've still slept. As long as you've slept, your momentum and your knots, so to speak, within have loosened and lessened a bit.
Mhm.
So, morning time, my morning, I encourage people all the time. Morning is the time to carpe diem and seize it, and it will get away from you, especially if you have kids. I have 3 kids. I totally get it. The more I have like made solid castle walls around my morning practices, and it doesn't have to be the Iliad, the Odyssey.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be, an hour and a half if you're a super soulful, but like super high power business person. And you're like, what is she talking about? Like, I have clients who are like, very, very high achieving people and they're
Mhm.
on Zoom calls at 6:30 in the morning and they've gone to the gym at 4:30. They having, very disciplined lives. Takes 10 minutes max. It can take 5 to 7 minutes. If you work with someone like myself and you get like a real energetic espresso regimen
Mhm.
for joy, for connection, because what it's about is connection. Back to that word, connecting to your own joy, realizing that joy is your actual essence, is your birthright, and is your nature. And how can I elevate my vibration? Because truly, we are all electromagnetic frequencies, and
Mhm.
joy is a high electromagnetic frequency. So if you think about like a radio, right? How can we tune to the FM station of joy? So I think like Joy FM. Okay, what do I need to do, Kilkenny, to elevate my vibration to start to feel Joy FM? So for me, it's yoga practice, physical asana. I'm a yoga teacher by trade. So every morning I do some yoga. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, often it's an hour and a half. But it doesn't matter how I feel when I wake up. If I do my yoga, I feel great. Every morning I meditate. So you have to find out what's your unique RX. Some people could be earthing, going out into their yard, taking off their socks and feel the sunshine on their face. And that could be 2 minutes.
Yeah.
A lot of people have the ritual of the hot drink, right? That's a ritual. I have
Mhm.
a wonderful episode, and a lot of my podcast episodes, I talk about the morning time and different things you can do, but you want to ritualize your life. I have an episode about ritualizing your life because when we create ritual, repeated things we do that have meaning, not habits, right? Brushing our teeth is a habit.
Mhm.
Behind brushing my teeth, I'm not thinking, oh, my beloved teeth. Oh, when I'm brushing my teeth, I'm remembering to chew, and chewing is such a gift to be able to eat and nourish my body. You're helping me because this conversation, I should like that's actually a
Mhm.
great thing. If you
Yeah.
could make that habit actually like a sacred, that would be an example
Yeah.
of like a sacred act. But
Mhm.
full disclosure, I'm not doing that yet. But thank
Yes.
you. I mean, now Kelly, because of this
Gratitude.
conversation, I'll
Yes.
add that. Like, oh, thank God for my
Grateful for
teeth.
my teeth. Yes.
Right? And and often it takes like, oh, like someone has like a tooth trauma and then they start doing that, right? That's
Yeah.
the gift of sickness and trauma. It helps
Mhm.
us appreciate things we haven't appreciated or bring attention to.
Mhm.
But ritual is what helps get our electromagnetic field to the station we're seeking.
Mhm.
So elevating your vibration, dancing is huge.
Mhm.
So moving your body, huge, because that uses that technology of the nervous system.
Mhm.
So when we people say so much and it's such a buzzword, and I think it's great, like nervous system regulation, right? You hear that a lot right now. I think it's so wonderful. It's in the collective consciousness and conversation. I like to think of it as even nervous system resonance, because yes, regulation is great because if it's dysregulated, but to me that's very like patriarchal, masculine, capitalistic, like all these like, oh, it feels constrictive.
Yeah.
To me it's like, no, I want a why nervous system. I want a
Mhm.
nervous system where I can experience all the emotions of life, right?
Mhm.
Joy is a high emotion. That's an extreme, right? It's not like
Mhm.
a neutral center thing, right? And I want my nervous system to be able to pulse and feel deep compassion, feel sadness when it's appropriate,
Mhm.
and then feel the opposite, because the more joy we can feel, then we can be incredible empaths and
Mhm.
serve people in our world more. So
Yeah.
how can we bring our nervous system into more resonance so it can rebound when it's a lower vibration, and then knows how to go the other way, a higher vibration? So I think movement, nature has a very high frequency. Nature is literally the face of the universe. And so when we go out in nature, even if you're in a city park, there are trees, osmotically, it elevates our vibration towards Joy FM.
Mm. I
So,
love the Joy FM. That's awesome. And
so
I
yeah,
love that, the dancing, the music, like, I literally in the morning, I'll, like, jack up the music and, like, put Yakety Yak it on, and my kids will be dancing, like,
so
and it does, it's
beautiful.
just, like, it's a 2-minute moment, and it makes such
Yes.
a difference in the day. You feel like you do feel lighter after that, and it's
It,
just get to be silly for a minute, like, yeah.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
then like during the day, right? If like because of course, like even if we do our morning practices, then
Yeah.
something happens and the day gets demanding, or people don't
Mhm.
act like we want them to act, or all the
Yeah.
things that we all experience, then
Mhm.
it's like prepare ahead of time. And that's one of the things I offer a lot in my readings with people. Like I'll say, okay, this is information I'm getting, and then what's your life like? And then, okay, what's an arsenal? Like you want to build it yourself, an arsenal of things that you can create that like right now, dancing and music do it for you, it sounds like, Kelly. So
Mhm.
some people, it's even breath, like, oh, let me find my breath. A lot of people aren't even breathing barely at all. Like they're breathing, but like not at all, like deeply or fully, right? And it's so powerful. Let me inhale for 4 counts. Let me
Mhm.
exhale for 4 counts. Okay,
Mhm.
let me do that 10 times. 6 times is 1 minute,
Mhm.
and you will feel shifted. And then
Mhm.
you put a reminder on your phone and you do that every 4 hours, every 3 hours, right? So,
Mhm.
what's an arsenal? Oh, a cup of tea. Like I have a thing of tea bags right here at my work. So, that the soothing tea for me, so I just do it every few hours. So, like, what are things you can do and plan them ahead of time so
Mhm.
that every day, throughout the day, you're inputting your nervous system resilience strength, and keeping your vibration elevated so that the experiences of the world aren't bringing it so low that then you have to work so hard to get it back up.
Mhm.
And then we live in more and more joy.
Mhm. I love that. And I just want to go off of like a follow-up question on that because I absolutely love that. I resonate with everything you said. And I'm also thinking of like this is something that I've struggled with and I have to be very aware of is like exposing myself to things that pull me down. So like being in a job that's just unrelenting and very draining or having people in my life that feel very like bring my energy down. Can we talk about that as like how do we know when to make that change? Like maybe we're in a job that we need the money, but yet we're like seeing our energy just completely depleted. At what point do we honor our energy and maybe sacrifice the finances? Like how do we make some of those decisions to really protect our energy once we start elevating it?
Yeah, it's a great question that really depends on each unique circumstance. So one is like, okay, how do I know whether to like leave my marriage or leave a job, right? Those things, those huge questions you're
Yeah.
speaking of. And then my answer would go back to, okay, check in with your inner GPS, which is comprised of the practices that I mentioned, your body. How does your body feel when you think about doing this? How does your mind feel? How does your nervous system feel? Then
Mhm.
let me do nervous system regulating resonance practices to tuck into the ground of my being, aka meditation, aka breath work, where I'm not coming just from the mind trying to figure it out. For sure, pros and cons lists can be great and it can
Mhm.
help, right? But if we don't go to the place and space of quietude, to the field of being, as Rumi speaks to, of our soul, then we don't even know authentically what we want. So we have to pull our senses inward. It's called pratyahara in the yoga and Buddhist traditions. We pull our senses inward. We get quiet as we can. And then we do this practice of just feeling into our own energy. You're
Mhm.
listening, but it doesn't have to be like a hard, active listening. You're really thinking of it as making space, clearing out, so you become more receptive to that frequency of the radio station of your soul. So you're
Yeah.
trying to align with that. So working from the element and the field of your soul, your nervous system, doing practices, the more of those things you do, even if it's 2 minutes every day, right? You'll start to excuse me, your inner voice. And there's different tools and techniques, like, you then ask the universe, right?
Mhm.
Ask on the outside, we already spoke of.
Yeah.
Ask for clear guidance, for signs from your spirit team. Work
Yeah.
it from the outside in. Work it from the inside out, getting quiet, doing practices, feeling into your body. How does your body feel when you feel this? The other key component is it might be, and it is like a muscle, I should say too, parenthetically.
Mhm.
So with me, again, I've helped literally thousands of people develop their intuitions, and I have a free toolkit that I'll talk about. But you can do it and think of it like reps at a gym, that it's not something that necessarily is going to happen for you tomorrow. It could, you could ask and for sure get an answer. But to live your life from this place all the time will take practice. You don't go to the gym for the first time in 10 years and expect to the next day look like, the most fit version of yourself or have like bodybuilding muscles, right? We know. And this is a muscle. The intuition is a muscle. The inner GPS is a muscle. And so you want to put in moderate reps consistently daily
Mhm.
and not overwhelm yourself. And then slowly, as you do those reps, it'll get stronger, it'll get stronger. And then you'll see your life will come to alignment. You'll just start to know things. You just start to know. The other
Yeah.
key point I want to mention, because you're talking about and alluding to bigger things, it sounds
Mhm.
like bigger life decisions, right? Is
Yeah.
it's like also, okay, I'm clear I need to leave the job, but
Mhm.
then you have to ask yourself, when, right?
Mhm.
Okay, I want to leave the job, but you want to think about the timing and then the how. So it's not just, okay, I want to leave a job. Because a lot of people I've worked with, it's like, okay, and now, all right, great, we've worked together. And I know I want to quit my job now. And it's like, that's great. But now we need to think about these things because sometimes people rush the process. Sometimes people take forever on the process and then never do it, right? So once we
Mhm.
get clear on the big decisions, I want to leave this marriage, I want to do this thing. Okay, now let me be thoughtful, present, and dial into my intuition about when I do it and then how I do it.
Mhm.
And those are the other key components.
Yeah, so helpful. So many things that just came out that I really believe will resonate with so many people who are in that place of like, okay, what's the next step? I don't want to live like this, but how do I move out of this? So I really appreciate everything you shared, and I would love for you to share how people can connect with you and any programs you might have coming up or have established.
And the other thing, thank you so much. I wanted to
Mhm.
add about
Yeah.
the last question you were asking
Mhm.
me is too, once you develop and do these reps
Mhm.
of the intuition like a muscle daily, as often as you can and build it, then the path appears. So you've decided, okay, I'm going to make the decision. I know now in my gut, I know for sure my body expands. When I think about it, I get a little excited. I get little butterflies. It feels a little scary because again, that's your ego coming in saying, oh, I want to keep you safe because it would rather keep you safe and keep you stuck. And then you're stuck forever. And then you wake up 20 years and you're living the same exact life and you're miserable, right? If you're miserable. So but what happens is when you start to build this muscle of your intuition, when you start to build your inner GPS, when you start to tune more and more into the frequency of your most authentic self, when you start to tune into the frequency of vitamin joy, then the path appears. You know, you can't not day one, you oh, okay, I want to do this. Okay, now I know how I'm going to do it, right? That's as modern day people, we just, okay, now we want the answer. We're so used to Googling everything and getting the answer. So it's
True.
about, okay, let me trust. I'm going to keep doing the reps and then I'll
Mhm.
keep getting the signs. The license plates will come. All of a sudden I'll get like the free, like I just got a refund the other day. I didn't expect. It's like, oh my God, right? Like the things will just, the universe will start to really align its magic with you because it rewards you listening and you discovering your most soul authentic voice within yourself because the voice within yourself is the universe itself.
Yeah.
And so when you start doing the reps to hear that voice, you'll get rewarded and you'll get all the signs you need to be on your path, and all the unseen relationships will come and things you could have imagined will just start to appear and you'll know what to do.
So reassuring. Thank you for saying all that because I think for so many of us, like we don't want to surrender that, but like it is so important to surrender and just trust the universe is always supporting you. So I really appreciate you sharing that and just gives us so much more guidance in the process.
Yeah, and you can titrate it. You know, you can be gentle with your nervous system. You know, so
Yeah.
sometimes it's too much of a stretch to go, "Oh my God, the universe is supporting me." Or you hear us talk now, and you think, "Oh, Kilkenny and Kelly said the universe is supporting me," and in that moment, you feel it, and
Yeah.
then you go to your life day to day, and then the kids are, crying, and then your partner's yelling at you, and your boss is sending you the email, right? And then you start to feel
Yeah.
contraction, right? So then
Mhm.
it's like, okay, let me remember what's in my arsenal. Oh, that even breath practice. Oh, that feeling my feet into the earth and feeling my hips heavy. Oh, fill in the blank. What is that arsenal? And oh, let me rock my hips for 2 minutes and put on my favorite song. Okay, that's what keeps me opened up. That's what's going to keep the answers flowing and keep the little practices up, and they'll make all the difference.
Yeah. Amazing. It's just such a good reminder. Just continue on with it and just believe in it all. Mhm.
Yeah, do the reps. Your inner GPS is there. So yeah,
Yeah.
people can find me if you go to modernmystic.love/intuition. So it's modernmystic.love/intuition. I have a free intuition toolkit that will help you build this muscle and do the reps, and people find it really, really helpful.
Mhm.
And yeah, you can check that out and let me know
Amazing.
how it goes.
Yeah, amazing. I will put that in the show notes. So for anyone who's listening, definitely check that out. Check out your podcast as well. And I'm just so grateful for everything you shared today. I know there's gonna be so many seeds that have been planted that will just flourish into so many amazing transformations, I'm sure, from anyone who's listening. So I'm really grateful for everything.
Well, it's great to be here and appreciate your insights and your really most thoughtful questions, and just a joy. Total joy FM
Yes.
conversation today.
Yes, absolutely. Hopefully, elevating the vibration for anyone who's tuning in. I really appreciate it. And again, if you found value in this, share this episode with someone who can really benefit from it. So it's only through sharing this that we can really help others transform from the inside out. So thank you so much again.
You're welcome.